Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As if on cue, the train that's near my house has just rattled by. So there you go. Couldn't plan it better, Nance.
I can hear it, Rick.
Oh, then it's getting louder. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I'm Health Coach Rick. I'm here with Nancy, longtime colleague. And if you are watching, please let us know by post. Just say hi. Let us know that you're here. And look forward to that. Oops, Nance, I'm going to turn the volume down. I hear myself. There we go. Okay, we won't go through that again. So again, welcome everyone. If you happen to catch the little video promo we did earlier, we are talking about the 4th of July weekend. It is here. Well, almost, but pretty much. And I see Dana is here, Nancy. Excellent. And Shane. Hello, Shane. Shane, I don't want any critiques about if you watched the commercial I did earlier. I intentionally did it in front of my new Weber grill, and so that you would. That was an homage to you, and I proceeded to stand in front of the Weber grill the whole time. You couldn't see it. All right. Anyway. Whoops.
Some of our regulars are here.
Hello, guys. Thank you for being here. So 4th of July weekend.
Cheryl, awesome.
Good, Cheryl. Awesome. Hello, sunny California. Love it.
Yeah.
Bob is here.
There's Jennifer.
Yeah. Has Bob missed? I don't know if Bob.
Think so.
And Jennifer,
No.
I know you haven't missed.
No, she's not missed.
Yeah.
Donna. These are all our regulars
Yes.
coming on.
She knows
so
I'm going to
happy.
give
Sherry.
her heck if she
From
misses.
all over the country. It's really interesting. It's fun to have people come all over.
It's so cool. So, guys, for those of you all over the country, take a look at my backyard. Decided to do it outside just in the spirit of 4th of July. And this is the first day we haven't had rain, and it seems like a month and a half, Nancy. So
It does feel that way.
Oh, God. So anyway, love it, love it, love it. So we're talking about the 4th of July weekend, and the idea is hopefully you can leave this conversation that we are all going to have with something that you are willing to take on that you otherwise wouldn't be taking on if you weren't involved in this conversation, that will help you to stay on track. Clearly, this is going to be an interesting quote-unquote weekend. Plans and having a strategy, may be more important than you think. Nance, have you noticed? I know that it's kind of weird in different parts of the country. At least here in Massachusetts, we are coming out of isolation. It may be premature, and we may be drawn back into isolation, but right now, we're coming out of isolation. Have you noticed?
Yes, although it's been very cautious, very gradual. The governor's being very, very cautious. But
Yeah.
we have outdoor dining, some indoor dining, and we go into phase 3 on Monday, which means the gyms are going to start to be open. So, yeah, we are opening up more than we have in a long time.
Yep. I drove down the main street of the town I grew up in. My parents still live there, 5 miles away, and I was just struck by all of the umbrellas for the outdoor seating. They were on my right, and then they were on my left, and then I kept driving, and then there was another restaurant with outdoor seating, and then another one on the left. And it's like people are just dying to get out there.
People are so excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jennifer, I saw that you giving me grief about taking vacation next. She just gave me grief for not being here next week, Nancy.
Already.
I love it. Keep it coming, Jennifer. I can take it. Coming out of isolation. So we've talked in the past about the fact, Nance, that weekends are hard. We even had that study that we shared a few weeks ago where the day of the week when people weighed the most, and all of you who were on that episode got it right. Here comes the train. Forget the noise. Was Monday morning. People weighed the most. Weekends are hard. Long weekends obviously are harder. And now let's throw in a holiday, and let's throw in the fact that we're coming out of isolation and people are chomping at the bit to socialize and do the things that invariably involve food. So this weekend may be the hardest one any of us have faced in a while. So given that, it makes sense to have a plan. And at the end, we are going to ask, as we like to do, we don't want this to just be sort of a punch in the arm and just, off everyone goes, more motivated. What are you willing to commit to that, again, you wouldn't be committing to if you weren't elevating your game by being here and having this conversation with us? So, real quick, I see Tony has just joined us. San Diego is in the house. Iris is here. Who else do we have, Nance? Anyone that you have not? Oh, Sue is here.
Sue's joined us. Kate's with us.
Sherry.
Tom is here.
Yep.
We've got a few people here from San Diego. And
Yep.
we have Claudia, who may be new. I don't recognize that name.
No, me neither.
Welcome, Claudia, if you are new.
Yep.
Heidi from San Diego. That's another new name to me. That doesn't mean, Heidi, I apologize if you've been here before.
Yeah, Kathy from Louisville. Hello,
Joe.
Louisville. Excellent.
Tony from San Diego. So
Yes.
we got some... yeah, and I love this. A couple of people are saying, I'm not coming out of isolation.
Yeah, Sherry.
Yet. Sherry said that. Iris is saying that. So
Yep.
I'm really glad people are another San Diego, Kim. We are well represented by San Diego.
Fantastic.
Um,
And
oh,
Massachusetts.
Good. Claudia, you are new, so I didn't think I recognized your name. So glad you joined us.
Yes, Kate's here.
And then we have Marie, who's got a familiar last name to me, Rick.
Yeah, Marie.
Welcome, Marie.
That's someone I know.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to say, that name looks very familiar.
Yeah, I wanted to actually, and I will later bring back the quote that you shared last week, Marie. Psyched that you're here. Really, really psyched. Really good. Wonder if my brother is floating around in the background. That might give you a little bit of a hint of who Marie is. Okay.
We have Michelle from Wisconsin. So we've got a lot of people joining us.
Yeah. So I mentioned that Marie had a great quote last week, Nancy, and let's do a quick follow-up on last week. It'll be maybe a little bit less formal than our standard accountability spotlight, a little less behavior-oriented last week, much more about like sort of in the inspirational direction. The quotes, the sayings, the mantras that when you hear them, they just sort of lift you up and help you to aspire to work harder in this challenging area of weight management and health management. So when you hear a good one, it can help you to maintain your perspective. It can help you to be motivated and whatnot. We talked at the end of that episode last week about how do you keep these on the top of mind awareness. We all agree that they make a difference, but we often forget about them until the next time they happen to stumble into our path. So we made a big deal about what do you need to do so it's there, so that you can be either motivated, inspired, or have that different perspective a little bit more frequently throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So let me get to the one, Nancy, that Marie did. So it was so follow along, guys. It was like healthy self, right? But then if you just move a couple of letters, it's heal thyself. I'm sure there's a term for that. It's not an anagram. But I'm wondering
if it's not an anagram.
No, it's not an anagram. But whatever. The idea, what I like about that is healthy self. Everyone's a yes on that. But heal thyself. All of a sudden, it shifts the burden of like, hey, guess what? Guess who's responsible for this?
Right.
It's me. So Marie, love that one.
I love it. It's a very effective use of the words.
Tremendous. One other quickie that I think was probably maybe my second favorite, Nancy, and it was more about the whole idea of helping people to acknowledge, hey, I am in the driver's seat here. And it was this one. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Choose the moment and perfect it. In some ways, it could be a little uncomfortable. It's like, well, it really is up to me. But on the other hand, I look at that as a very positive thing. It's, hey, I'm in charge. So love it. Mm-hmm. But, Nance, the one that you and I think generally...
I think this was generally one of the more popular ones.
But maybe the most popular based on people's comments. So do you want to give it to us here? The one that everyone loved.
You've got to do it because I don't have it.
Okay, so it was
losing weight.
Losing weight is hard. No, here we are screwing up the quote.
Yeah.
No. Being overweight is hard. Losing weight is hard. Choose your hard. That one to me was at the top of the list. They're all good, but that one was I think the best.
That definitely had personal meaning to me, having been overweight myself and never being happy at that. I would rather work hard to maintain a lower body weight. It's worth it to me. So I love that one.
It's great. Sherry just threw another quote in here, Nancy.
Oh, good.
That she forgot to mention last week. Changing I to we changes illness to wellness.
Oh, that's wonderful,
Speaks to
Sherry.
the need for support. Awesome, Sherry. I love it. I
Oh,
love it.
I love
it.
that.
That's really
I have
really
one
good.
more that I saw in the feed today that I thought was great. So I'm just going to say it. And then I love the fact we've got some new people on today, which is a welcome to everybody that's new.
Yeah, thanks for
to
being here.
HMR and the community. Winning doesn't always mean being first. Winning means you're doing better than you've done before. And I love that perspective because, you know, we all can be perfectionists, right? If we're not doing it perfect, we give up and don't do it at all. And I love this because it's just, all right, stay in the game. Keep staying in the game.
Yeah.
Everything you do, every step forward you take is a positive thing that you're doing.
That's
and,
right.
you know, it may take you, it's a long journey, but if you keep making steps, you're there. Don't give up. So I thought that was a great
I
saying.
like that one. A lot of them actually fell under that that headline, Nancy, of don't be a slave to black and white thinking. And yet, just as a function of being human, we've inherited it. We like things to be clear and clean. We like black and white thinking. Life is so often not like that, and weight management is absolutely not like that. So as much as we're sort of inclined to want clean, simple, clear-cut answers, black and white, it doesn't work that way. So sometimes these quotes help us to embrace the sort of the gray zone a little bit more, Nance.
Right. And plus, I think it also indicates, you know, just don't be so hard on yourself. We all tend to be hard on yourself. So give yourself compassion and just really look at what you're doing well and taking a step forward.
Yep.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
all good.
Okay, very good. So, okay,
Right.
let's get down to business here.
Yeah,
Brass tacks, shall we say.
Yes,
We
will.
are
And
talking...
thank you for everybody who's coming on and saying hello.
Yep.
Again, all over the country. We've got Michelle. We've got Mary from Oregon. Her first week. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Mary Ann,
Welcome.
She's one of our long-term from Lexington, Kentucky. Desna, who says, I'm in Madison, Indiana, and not in Massachusetts since I don't have 14 days to quarantine. Yeah, well, that's true. Gail from Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia.
Sheridan. All right, so
Excellent.
we've got a lot of people coming on. So let's talk about what we're going to do tonight.
Let's get into it. So we're talking about having a plan for the weekend. So we already talked about this research to show that people weigh the most on Monday morning. So this is now a longer weekend, and it's a holiday weekend. Throw that in the mix. And on top of that, we're coming out of isolation, so there's like this tendency to want to let loose a little bit more. Another airplane. So given that Monday morning weigh-in, really, it has the potential to be a real problem. So what we are talking about here is having a strategy so that when you do get on the scale Monday morning or whenever you get on the scale, that you've done the work so that you're not regretting the 4th of July weekend. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it there.
Right.
So we did a poll, and it was kind of interesting. It was kind of fun. Lots of different categories. More high temptation. What's your biggest challenge over the 4 days? More high-calorie temptations than usual, barbecues, travel, pressure to socialize, and then we actually got some votes on this one, Nance. Fireworks plus dogs equals stress eating. And if you don't have a dog, it makes no sense to you. If you have a dog, you know exactly what we're talking about there.
Yes.
Those fireworks will drive them crazy. And so I will say overwhelmingly, though, of those different categories, Nance, the more high-calorie temptations than normal won the day by a large margin. So it makes sense, right?
And I think when you think about it, we can subsume the others underneath that pretty much. Because if you're going to a barbecue or you're traveling, what's the biggest issue you're dealing with?
Absolutely.
Well, I guess it could be physical activity, but most likely there's definitely, again, higher calorie temptations around. So
Yeah.
I think that we can really cover a lot with that being the main theme.
Yep. So temptations. We deal with them all the time. We strategize on how to avoid them, how to deal with them more effectively. That's just par for the course in the program because temptations are everywhere in today's food culture. But now we're talking about, again, a longer weekend, holiday, everything we just said. We're talking about, let's just call it, Nance, temptations on steroids. okay? Major temptations. And if you are facing temptations on steroids, then it only makes sense that you need to respond with a solution on steroids, a powerful plan in terms of how you're going to deal with the temptations and how you're going to stay on track, whether you're in phase 1 and you're on a weight loss trajectory, or phase 2 and you're trying to manage your weight. You might even be trying to lose weight in phase 2. So that's what we're talking about here. And if you're going to have a solution on steroids, a really effective solution, and this will sound familiar to those of you who've been watching us and who are in the program for any amount of time, we always focus on the to-do approach. What can you do versus what most people do when trying to lose weight or stay on track is I'm going to not do this and I'm going to not do that and I've got to stay away from this and good Lord, I'm not going to eat any of those. That's a very hard approach to gain any momentum around. When you focus on what you can do, the to-dos, it's a much easier approach to, first of all, comply, have some success with, and then build momentum. So, to-do approach versus not to do approach. Nance, what would you say is an advantage just from your experience in working with people or yourself around a to-do plan versus a not to do plan?
Well, it's just so important, and I think everybody, number one, just emotionally, it's so much easier because instead of, feeling deprived, you walk around just, I can't have that, it's depressing, it's frustrating, it's stressful, all of that. You're like, oh, I'll have this and I'll have that, and that's really good, and I really like that, and it just makes a lot more sense, right? To approach it that way, to be full on foods that you can eat, that you don't have to feel guilty about, and it makes it easier to say no to the foods that really can compromise your goals.
Yeah, I mean, we're all emotionally based. That's just who we are as human beings. And that one really resonates with me, Nancy, what you just said. The idea of I feel like I'm on track. I just made a healthy choice. Compare that with I didn't eat the Doritos. They're still there. I didn't eat them, but they're still there. And now I want them a little bit. Yes, I want them more than I did 5 minutes ago. I'm not going to eat the Doritos. I'm not going to eat the Doritos. I'm not going to. That is not reinforcing. In fact, that is
depriving. And then I'll just have one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. The old slippery slope. Right. I'll just have
one.
Right. So,
and then we know where it goes.
So a to-do plan is reinforcing, certainly emotionally, and it's easier to build on behaviorally. A not-to-do plan is a very difficult plan to feel positive about for any amount of time, and it's almost impossible to build on. So with that, I will just really quickly, Nancy, just before the call, I pulled just some of the research that we like to share in the program. There's lots of studies that have actually shown that when a to-do approach to weight loss and weight management is more effective than a not-to-do approach. Whether you're looking at studies on overweight families, the to-do approach is more effective. People with specific medical conditions, I'll just share that study right here, Nancy. People who have diabetes, compared to reducing fat and limiting red meat, so there's your not-to-do approach, those who followed the guidelines to simply eat more fruits and vegetables and eat more whole grains lost twice as much weight in this study. So there are lots of studies that show that, and none of us should be surprised for the reasons that we just talked about. It's emotionally more, much more reinforcing, and it's just easier to build on. Okay, so.
Love that study.
I love that study too, and I love reading that research. And we need studies on this, Nance, to show us that focusing on don't eat the cake, that is not the most effective approach in the world.
But it's still reinforcing.
It's good to see science supporting what intuitively I think we all know. Okay, so the final point I would make is if you're not really leaning into this approach this weekend, and we're going to really be very specific about what kind of plans might work best. But they're all to do. What can you do and do more of? If you don't take that on as a strategy, what are you left with? The not to do's. And really, any solution to any challenges you face, everyone has a different set of challenges. Everyone's life is different. But every solution has to, in some way, shape, or form, involve eating more healthy foods. Think about that. Sounds like kind of an obvious thing, but it really is. If you're going to have a solution over this weekend around better managing your weight, whether it's weight loss or weight management, you're not going to not eat. So the whole game we're playing is how can you strategize to eat more healthy foods, which is just another way of looking at a to-do plan, Nancy.
Right,
So
right.
take us into it. We've sort of narrowed it down to two major approaches here. And as Nancy's laying these out, think about which style of plan might work better for you if you're so inclined to take one of these on. Go ahead, Nance.
All right, and before we get to it, I just want to say one thing, and Rick knows what I'm going to say. There's a precursor to both of these.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask everyone here to really think about keeping records, tracking through the weekend.
Yep.
That's your first decision. Because if you're, number one, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be tracking the to-do behaviors, the positive behaviors. So that's really reinforcing. It allows you to see where you are. You can write it down. It keeps you problem solving. If you stop keeping records, we all know it's just that much harder. Rick's showing his records right now. So that's
records.
the first thing.
Yep.
Make a decision that you'll keep tracking over the weekend, no matter what happens.
Yep.
Even if you have a day where you do no healthy behaviors,
Yep.
still keep tracking.
You put in zeros because
Put in zeros,
it moves
which
you.
the app actually does for you anyway.
It moves you quicker to like, hey, I got to do something here. It's
Yeah,
actually part of the solution to acknowledge when it's not going well.
And ideally, set a limit or a number of times that you'll update. Research, Rick, shows 3 times a day is probably the absolute ideal. So maybe a couple times during the day and then one more time before you go to bed.
Yeah, just a quick nuance, not maybe not the ideal, but the threshold minimum level. So that was a study that we really like, where they looked at people who were more successful in weight loss and weight management, and the conclusion was, and it was a record keeping, they were really looking at the record keeping, and it seemed that people who kept records 3 times a day or more, a minimum of 3, so that might be what to get your head around. They seem to have, that's when the success sort of jumped up. So twice during the day, once before your head hits the pillow is sort of like a minimum, maybe soundbite to think about there.
Right.
So
and
this
if
is
you
all.
can tie it to something you do routinely, it makes it a lot easier. So, all right, enough said about that.
Yep, but
That's
a
the first decision.
prerequisite. It's a prerequisite. Okay, so now
Yeah.
the
All right,
to-do.
so now the 2 types of plans.
Yes, and
So, all right. So, Rick, one is more of a one-day plan.
Yep.
And then the second one's more doing something, setting a goal that you are going to work to achieve all 3 days. All right. So the first ones, we've talked about this a lot. Those of you who've been around are familiar with this, is to have a day where you do a blast plan.
Yes.
So again, that means you're going to blast, really push one of the imperatives. So it could be HMR foods, it could be fruits and vegetables, unless you're on decision free, or it could be physical activity.
Right.
And what we typically do to define a blast day is to do 2 more HMR foods or 2 more fruits and vegetables than a typical high day for yourself. So you're really stretching. Or to do at least 100 calories more than your typical high day in physical activity. So that's one approach. And many of you have experienced those, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
And we're
Then
getting endorsements already about, and not only endorsements about these, Nancy, but people are already making plans, Dana.
Oh, good.
All right,
Good,
Dana,
good,
all right,
good.
we'll come
All
back
right.
to that.
The second one
Yep.
is more of a daily goal. So let's say you pick an imperative. Think of what is going to be the most strategic for you. Not the one that's necessarily the easiest for you to do, but what would be most strategic. And set a minimum goal that you'll accomplish each day. So a minimum number of meal replacements you'll do, a minimum number of vegetable foods you'll do, a minimum amount of physical activity you'll do every day. That kind of keeps you with some level of structure all 3 days and keeps you problem solving. I think this is another very strategic way to plan.
Yep. Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about the blast plan?
Yeah. So
Rick?
basically, what we're offering here are 2 different options. A one-day plan. I'm a huge fan of that. Many of you are. Dana just talked about 3 days off is less structure, more vulnerability.
Yeah.
Friday will be a 10 fruit and vegetable blast. And Saturday
Love
and
it.
Sunday will be an extra entree and extra shake. So she's kind of melded the 2. She's got a blast plan.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
something about the blast plan, like where you really go for it, it's like, this is my high HMR food day, or my high fruit and veggie day, or my high PA day. it's easy to keep your head around that. And the big point about the blast plan, not only does it lead to a more successful day, it presents that sort of shift in your mind where you feel like, I am on a roll. You focus on one day, and it can actually impact the rest of the weekend, because if you're keeping records, you're like, wow, my numbers are great. I want to continue to have a great weekend. So the blast plan has the calorie benefits, low calorie, weight loss, better weight management, but also a psychological positive reinforcing benefit. But then the other one, I'll just say, Nancy, the daily minimum is, I'm a huge fan of that one too. And if you can look at some of the comments there, some people have already taken some of those on. Just that one, it's just so easy for things to go astray and awry. Right. So holding yourself accountable to a minimum on a day on a behavior, it just keeps you in a game in a way that if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be in the game.
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's it's doable, and it keeps you focused all 3 days. Like Gail, for example, her goal is to eat a fruit and a vegetable at every meal. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Some of you may find that, and it doesn't have to be the imperative, if you're or it could be more than the imperative. So maybe it's 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. You're going to figure it out. If you're traveling, that could be a huge accomplishment on the road. For others, it may be, all right, I'm going for 7 every day, or I'm going to do 4 shakes every day. So whatever. Rick, you had a thought on what you were going to work on doing consistently.
I'll share that. I just want to, I know Jennifer's probably thinking, she keeps saying imperative. What does she mean by that?
I'm sorry.
That's fine. If you're in phase 2 of the program, imperative, you know what that means. For those of you who are in phase 1, we simply call the 3 to-do behaviors that we work on in the program. HMR foods, more is better. Fruits and vegetables, more is better. Physical activity, more is better. The more of those things you do, the better you'll do managing your calories. They are so imperative for calorie management that we have simply just shortened it and call them the imperatives. So an imperative is HMR foods, fruits and vegetables, or physical activity. So when Nancy says that, that's all she means.
And we have minimums, in phase 1, meal replacements, the imperatives 5. That's the minimum you're going for every day. Fruits and vegetables 5, and physical activity 300 or 35 and 35. So in phase 2, it's more 2 meal replacements or 14 a week, 35 and 2,000.
Yep. I want to acknowledge.
Thank you for defining those.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge Gail and Bob, who just reinforced our point, Nancy, about the record keeping.
Yes.
Love it. Bob just started using the app a couple weeks ago, so he was not using it initially, and hopefully, Bob, you're finding it as useful as all of us, where it's just someone else even said here, Nancy, you've always got your phone with you, and you're able to quickly reinforce yourself, get some reinforcement, track the successful behavior you just did. It adds to the rest of the successful behaviors you've engaged in. And
I've had some people who have moved the HMR app so it's right next to their Gmail or their Chrome or their message app, something that they tend to go to a lot, so that it's right there to remind them to open it up.
Yeah. So Gail is expressing astonishment at Dana's 10 veggie fruit plan.
I love this.
We won't come back to this, but Dana, you might want to just give Gail a sense of how on earth you do that, because she's like, wow, 10 servings. You have ways to do that. Share that with the community. But anyway, Nate, so you wanted to have me comment about the blast plan. I won't go into, it's, to me, the 1-day plan, it's my favorite plan that we make in the program. It's just so easy to get your head around, and I'm able to really push myself on a day. And the idea that you push yourself on one day, and it actually, it's almost like a hack to raising your game to push yourself on other days, but you only focused on the one day with the plan. I like that. I like the efficiency of that. It makes me think, Nancy, of a story of someone in the program who was someone who has just done an incredible job. This happened just recently, and all of our health coaches were buzzing about this. We have a lot of these stories, but the most recent one is this gentleman had lost almost 100 pounds, and he was really hitting the to-dos pretty hard. Lots of shakes, lots of entrees. He was above the minimums. He was around 50 servings of fruits and vegetables. That level had brought him to almost 100-pound weight loss, but his weight loss had stalled for, I think it was almost a month, Nance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like gaining and losing the same pound, if you will.
Yeah. So his coach worked with him to bump up the 50 servings of fruits and vegetables, which is extraordinary, to 70. And that week, that was enough to crowd out the other foods he was eating. And he lost, I think it was 2.2 pounds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, I just ate a ton more food and now my weight loss is back on track. And then so the next week he did 86, I think.
I would say 84.
84,
One of them.
and he lost another more than 2 pounds again. So here was someone who had stalled out after all that weight loss with 50 servings. So it's just another endorsement. We see it 1,000 times in the program of the more of the to-dos you practice, the better able you are to avoid the not-to-dos that have a lot more calories and are harder to stop eating. It supports better weight loss and better weight management, of course, over this challenging weekend. Okay, so blast plans or establishing a minimum for you on any behavior you want. So now this is where the proverbial rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
We have a lot of experience on this call. We've already heard some people endorsing the blast plan. If you have your own experience of having a positive result from the blast plan, please share it with the community. We want to generate some enthusiasm around the blast plan because it's so effective. Or if you've had some success with establishing a non-negotiable minimum on a behavior. An example, Nance, might be no 0 days on exercise. I'm not going to have a single day where I don't do something, even if it's just 5 minutes. I'm going to track it, I'm going to put the calories in, and that's not a 0 day. That would be an example of a minimum, but of course you customize it so that it works for you. And then
it could be physical activity every morning. It could be I'm going to have 5 fruits and vegetables by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3 by noon. You know, I'm going to have 2 double shakes every day. I mean, it could be any configuration you want.
Yep. So I will just share. I had my phase 2 class today with my coach Kate. Hello again, Kate. And there were 2 things I took on. The first was the record keeping, because I could see.
Right.
I could see. All of a sudden, it's 12 hours, and it's like, oh, I haven't tracked anything. So, real high tech here. I did this during the call today. I just, you always have your phone with you, right? As someone said, I open it up. There's my little Post-it note, and there it is. Record keeping 3 times per day or more. So, I'm going to remember to do that. And then the other thing is, as much of a fan as I am of the one-day blast plan, it really is my favorite plan. I'm being a little bit more strategic, Nance. I think that getting a strong start to every day, so tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, might do more for me than anything else around having me in the right headspace and give me things to keep building successful choices on. So I'm doing a double smoothie every morning over this weekend. That's my commitment. I shared it with my group. Kate knows about it. She's certainly going to follow up with me on it. And God knows you'll follow up with me on it, Nancy, as well. Yes. So that's an example of taking some of these ideas. So what about you? What are you willing to take on here? Clearly, hopefully, everyone agrees. Long, difficult weekend coming out of isolation. Throw the holiday in. Monday morning could be bad news unless you do something about it. So, weight-wise. So, what's something that makes sense for you to take on? Can you get behind a blast plan? How much would you push yourself on a particular behavior? Or are you better served establishing a minimum across several days? Would it be with HMR foods? Would it be with fruits and vegetables? Maybe a combination of those? Or would it be physical activity? So I think we want to spend a little more time on this than normal, Nancy, and get people to really
definitely
think about
we're
this.
We're in the home stretch, but we're going to stretch out the home stretch. So, more. We've done this before. We're going to ask you if you want the extra accountability and support around your plan to post it. I'd really love to be able to read a lot of these, hear what you're doing. That gives other people ideas about what you're doing. They may want to do something. Let's share. What are you planning to do? And then what's one thing you're going to commit to doing to help you pull it off?
Yes.
What's the first step that you need to be able to pull that off?
Yep.
I
Well, Dana just gave us that, Nancy. Start early, but shop the day before so that you have everything ready to grab.
Prep is critical.
So obvious, but so often not done. So that's an awesome first step. Mary Ann, I eat 70 last week. I ate 70 last week. Last week was 75 or more. So, Mary Ann, am I gleaning from that you're going to take on a blast plan to support high servings during a more difficult weekend than we've typically been dealing with? What's your thought there?
And now one thing I do want to say is don't pick the imperative that is the easiest for you.
Right.
Look for one that is the most strategic for you. Maybe it's one that's a little more challenging to you. So, even having maybe a little bit of a lower goal, but it really has you stretching even more. So think about that as well. But Mary Ann, I love this. I think one of the important parts about the Mary Ann post, Rick, is she's keeping off over 100 pounds. So it's another great example of, the servings. 35 is a minimum that we talk about, and people have personal levels that really support them.
Yeah.
So Mary Ann clearly is someone, where the 70-75 is making a difference for her.
Yeah, and the others who can't even get their head around that might feel like, my goodness, I mean, aren't you too stuffed or whatnot? But there is a very positive experience from doing that. There's a freedom around food when you really embrace a food blast plan, whether it's HMR foods or fruits and vegetables. And I think the key point there, Nance, which it can feel excessive to people, is the calories are not excessive. Yeah, it's a lot of food, but most people like to eat a lot of food and to eat frequently. But the calories don't add up quickly, certainly compared to the other foods that are going to be tempting us this weekend.
Exactly.
So you're talking.
All right, Rick.
Yeah,
let's get into the post here. So we've got Suzanne. She's going to take on a physical activity blast day tomorrow. So Suzanne, what I would ask you is, what's the amount of physical activity you're going to go for? And have you identified your first episode? When's your first bout of physical activity?
Very
you've started. Hold on.
I like Shane's comment here. Did you see Shane's comment?
Susan said, is it all right if I do it with water? Well, if that's where you feel is the most important thing, then definitely you can look at, what's the amount of water you want to have every day and figure out how you're going to do that. Jennifer's mentioning she's going to be on the road tomorrow and Sunday, so travel days. So she's going to do a blast day on Saturday.
Good, Jennifer.
I love that.
It's great.
It's
great.
So again, she's going to double check her highest day to see what that is. And I know you were starting to plan even your back and forth traveling so that you're not getting caught stopping somewhere without something to eat. So you had already mentioned that.
Yeah, so
Jennifer,
really we've talked in our group about, not getting to that fork in the road where it's like, oh boy, I'm like right there and there's these other foods that are tempting me. And so eating frequently that high day, that's just going to help you avoid that dangerous, tempting fork in the road. I like Nancy Kim is going to add veggies to her shakes. Is that a daily thing? Are you going to go for it given the challenges of the weekend, Kim? Is that something, I'm going to push you into your stretch zone a little bit here. Is that something that you could really sample every day this weekend? I'm assuming tomorrow starts the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That would be a push, and I promise you'll learn something from that. That would be very interesting. Nancy, I also see Shane embracing simplicity, which I love. Want to think less this weekend. Isn't that a nice idea? So I'm sticking closer to the phase 1, 3 + 2 + 5 minimums with more is better. Grilling vegetables and fruits will help me to, I think, participate.
Well, that is a lot of structure to bring into each day when you're in phase 2. So, that's a very, it's an aggressive plan, Shane. I love it. And it just kind of has you thinking all day about how you're going to get that in.
Yep.
That's a wonderful plan.
Mary Ann being very strategic, taking your advice, Nancy, usually typically good with the fruits and veggies, 70 to 75. Let's not get numb to these numbers, guys. That's extraordinary, Mary Ann. So what she's focusing on is PA. She's taken on a blast plan of 800. So what questions do you
That's
have for
awesome.
Mary Ann, Nancy? Because that can sound good, but what how-tos to support that?
Yeah, so I would, again, Marianne, what's the first bout you're going to do? If you're doing this tomorrow or whatever day you're taking it on, what's the first thing you're going to do so you've got a plan to support it.
Yep.
Oh, and
Gail.
Suzanne's coming back about her blast plan. She's going to do a long dog walk when
Good.
she wakes up.
Good.
And then Pure Bar live stream at noon, stationary bike ride before dinner, yoga before bedtime. I love it.
I love it too.
Really organized and planned.
That's great.
Oh, Jennifer, she's going to do 13 fruits and vegetables on Saturday. Well, we're definitely going to follow up on that one.
Yep. Hey, can I just quickly, an important perspective, we've mentioned
Yeah.
this before, Nancy. Suzanne, I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but this is really important. When you have such a level of detail with what you're going to do and your PA, the walk, all of that,
Good point.
the term that we like to, or the concept we like to bring in is bring practical flexibility to that. In other words, life happens sometimes, and the natural tendency, back to the black and white thinking, Nancy, right? Oh, my plan didn't work exactly the way I said it would, so therefore the plan is out the window. No, bring some flexibility to that. It's like my goal was a high PA day. You mapped out how you were going to do it. Every step of that might not exactly, the dominoes might not fall exactly that way. Don't give up on the plan. Figure out in the face of whatever challenges on how you can do it. Some days, Nancy, I know I've had this with myself, the plan blows up for things I didn't consider or just,
Right.
and
You just didn't know were going to happen.
and I'd say, you know what, I'm going to do it the next day, as opposed to, well, I didn't do my plan for the week. So that's a
Yeah.
really important concept in the program.
Very good perspective. I like that.
Oh, look at this. Did you see Gail's? Minimum of 1 fruit and veggie each meal. I'll add 1 shake. I'll app track with the notes daily. Holds me accountable. Okay, so several different items there. I hope that you are making a note of those. Document that somehow, if you could, Gail, just because you got a few balls that you're juggling there, and it would be easy with the 4th of July weekend to, all of a sudden be like, what did I commit to? So that's just a recommendation. Well, I noticed.
Susan said she, because I think it was Kim saying she was going to have vegetables in her shake, and Susan said she tried carrots and they were interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm not sure
I
I'm
don't know
taking that.
I don't know what interesting means.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Nance, it's getting dark here. I just noticed that
Yeah,
it's starting to get
yeah.
on. Guys, if we push this for a couple hours, we can push it out till fireworks. You ready? 4th of July? No, we're not going to do that.
By the way, Gail, yes, when Marianne says she's doing 75 fruits and vegetables in a week, that is in a week, not in a day. Definitely a week.
Lots of plans people are committing to here, Nancy. Really,
Yes.
really fabulous. I love it.
I do too. Keep them coming.
Yep. I'm committed to having us cap it at 7:45. So keep them coming, but I would like to start to turn the corner here.
Yep.
We've got a lot of things that, of course, I hope people realize as a function of posting it here with us, we are going to follow up. You have an opportunity, quote unquote, it's opportunity, Nance, right? To
Right.
follow, to have accountability around what you said you were going to do. So if you're here next Thursday, we're going to follow up on those plans. Well, we won't, but Nancy will talk about who's going to be here next week. But take on the accountability. As opposed to, we've said this before, a necessary evil. I need to be accountable to. Build accountability into your week. And that's what you've just done. You're in the driver's seat. You're choosing to be accountable. So it only helps you to follow through on what you said you were going to do. That's the science of complying and the science of making behavioral changes.
And if something happens and you aren't able to fully follow through on your plan, that's okay too.
Right. That's true.
It's okay.
That's right.
There's no judgment. You're human. We're all human. You come back. We talk about it. You inevitably learn something.
Yep.
No matter what happens, it's valuable.
Yep.
And sometimes you, in hindsight, figure out, all right, I think I would do this differently to be able to accomplish it next time. So it's always
Absolutely.
a positive learning experience, whether you pull it off totally or not.
That's happened a lot to me, not just if I didn't take
Yeah.
it on the next day, coming back the next week and saying, you know what, it didn't happen. I am, and then I usually have a renewed vigor and motivation
Yeah.
to take it on again. So,
Yeah, it often takes you 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but and then you get it done. So it's a good thing.
okay,
All
so
right.
so we could go on, but we're not going to. Challenge your challenge to this weekend. Respond to the challenge. That's what we've talked about here. Having a plan, not just walking through the 4th of July weekend backwards, hoping it all works out. Of course, you're not going to do that. But now we've sort of put a much finer point on this. It's more effective to have a to-do plan than a not-to-do plan. I'm just going to try to not eat all the tempting foods. Well, that sounds good, but how often has that worked out in the past? Give yourself permission to eat and build in the exercise. These are reinforcing behaviors. They create that positive psychology that we've talked about and can really have you going through this weekend in an unusually successful way, certainly more so than the average person goes through a 4th of July weekend. We hope that this conversation has been helpful. Please let us know. Is it useful to have these events? As we say every week, your feedback goes further than you think. And thanks always for your time. We know that you're all very, very busy. So Nancy, close us out here.
Yeah, I want to preview. Hopefully, you've all gotten an email at this point that Monday we're starting a 2-week national step challenge. So the goal will be to try to walk at least or cover at least 10,000 steps each day. So you'll be hearing about that. Please participate. That'll be a fun contest. There are prizes available. And next Thursday night for the Facebook Live, Sandy and Sharon will be here to really support you, to talk about the step challenge and support you.
That's going to be
awesome.
awesome.
We'll also have a mini challenge every day, so there'll be a lot of fun variety to try in this process. So it should be fun. Please join. Please post your experience with that. And then other than that, we've really enjoyed spending time with you today.
Yeah.
I wish you again good luck. Please be safe out there. I really worry about when I see people walking around without masks. So please be safe and be healthy and have a happy 4th of July. Take care, everybody.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. Thank you.